Everybody, and welcome to another edition of 5 Questions with the Paulists. Today, I am going back to my hometown in New York City, and it is there that I also find not only my favorite place in the world, but one of my favorite Paulists in the world. Father Larry Rice is joining us, and Father Larry, welcome home. Welcome back
Thank
to
you,
the
Mike. Thanks so much. It is great to be here. Good to see you on my screen.
And question one, right off the bat, you just moved from Texas to New York City. Are attitudes about the pandemic wildly different in New York City than they are in Texas?
I would say they are pretty significantly different. In New York, as you know, the pandemic hit early and it hit hard, and it really affected everybody's lives very immediately. And in Texas, it was much more of a kind of a slow burn. And so people, I think, are still a little more casual. There's still a little bit more kind of denial about the whole thing down there. I think that's started to change in the last couple of months. But in New York, people take this very seriously. And, you know, you walk on the streets in Manhattan and everybody's got a mask on and people are keeping apart, and it's how we live now. And in Texas, when I was there, at least up until early December of last year, it was a little more casual. So yeah, we're pretty careful here in New York.
That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Question number two, you've been doing a bunch of cooking videos, which I really love. What's the thing that you made during the pandemic that one brought you the most comfort, and is there maybe a different one that brought someone else comfort?
Okay, well, let me do a shameless self-plug and tell people that you can find my videos on YouTube, and the title of my channel is In the Kitchen with Father Larry. So I've got about 8 of those out there. It's kind of on pause right now. I'm living in our mother house now where I don't really have access to a kitchen. So until my living situation changes, that's going to be on pause. But I've always loved cooking, and it's good for me, and generally speaking, good for the people that I live with. One of the things that I started really as soon as we went into lockdown last March, I opened up our cupboards and I found I had only 1 packet of yeast there. So I thought, you know, I'm just going to start a sourdough culture. So I did that before everybody else decided to start a sourdough culture. And I kept that sourdough culture going until I left in December. And, you know, I figured out what its rhythms and, you know, how to feed it and what it needs to keep going. And I think the guys that I lived with appreciated having it there and the things that I was making with it. You know, my standard joke was that I would, you know, go through all the steps to make kind of your classic sourdough loaf, and I would get it all done and I put it in the oven and I would pull it out and it would be cinnamon rolls. Like something has gone wrong here. And again, it's cinnamon rolls.
Right.
You know, and let me just say that sourdough cinnamon rolls with a little bit of cream cheese icing on the top, that is really tasty.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I know those guys appreciated it. I could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Number 3 of today is, you know, you're a Trekkie who actually speaks Klingon. Have you ever prayed in Klingon? Like, I don't know, maybe like at a Star Trek convention or a Comic-Con or something, or maybe elsewhere. I don't know.
You know, not really. I am the one who was responsible for the first liturgical use of the Klingon language in the Roman Catholic Church. I will admit to that.
Okay.
But my Klingon is not fluent enough that I could use it in that kind of a situation. But I can tell you that several years ago, I was at one of the big annual Las Vegas Star Trek conventions, and the folks that organized the convention actually had a space set aside for us to have mass on Sunday morning.
Huh.
And I did not actually end up presiding. They had somebody else that was another priest that was there doing that. But 2 of the Star Trek Voyager actors, Robert Picardo and Roxanne Dawson, were the lectors for that mass, which I thought was really cool. But what really captured my attention was this priest they had in mass had a white stole, and the ends of the white stole were embroidered in silver with the logo of the United Federation of Planets.
Wow.
And I so need one of those. You know, you got to know somebody to get that custom made or something. But I really want one of those United Federation of Planets stoles.
That's amazing. Was that Father Roderick who was doing the mass?
I don't think it was.
Daily
This was
breakfast.
before he was a thing. This was quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember he had put up a sign at Comic-Con that just said, "I pray," and people can come up and write their prayers. And he had said that they were some of the most beautiful prayers he had ever written, he had ever really read. He said you would never have expected it at a place like that, but here we are, you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so it's great. Yeah, question 4. You know, you're a priest who loves technology. Do you think the live stream for masses, funerals, weddings, things like that, is that helpful, harmful, somewhere in the middle, or and is it ever going to go away?
My take on that is that it's a good thing for where we are now because it's what we can do, and it's a way of staying at least a little bit connected with people. In my experience, most people that have been involved with church are really anxious, eager to get back together with people in person as soon as it's safe to do that. So I think that, you know, people are going to jump right back in. And as soon as the pandemic is mostly behind us, I think we're going to see a big surge in in-person attendance, which will probably taper off a little bit over time. But because we now know how to do this, and in most places have the cameras and the technology and the expertise in place, I think what we're going to find is this is going to become an additional way that we can reach out to people.
That's right.
So, for example, you know, when your relatives overseas can't come into town for the baptism or the first communion or the wedding or the funeral, having that live stream available is going to become very important for people.
Yep.
I can remember a wedding that I did several years ago where, you know, elderly mom over in the United Kingdom couldn't come over for the wedding. And so in the front pew, they had an iPad set up with FaceTime, and she watched the whole thing. And through the whole wedding mass, I could see her face on the iPad as she was watching. And that was kind of a precursor to some of this live streaming. I think it's going to become a way of people connecting to us the way that they're doing now during the pandemic. But also, if somebody is looking for a faith community, if they want to get a sense of what their liturgy and what their prayer is like, this is going to become a way that they can kind of peek in the church doors without having to commit to anything or interact with anybody, just to kind of see what it's like. And then they may be able to, after that, take that step of saying, this looked like a cool place. I liked the preaching. The music was great. Maybe I'm actually going to check it out in person next Sunday. So I think it's going to become very much a tool for evangelization. Right now, it's a tool to kind of keep our communities together and keep us connected. But it's really going to become more of a tool for evangelization in the future.
Very nice. I've said that for years, so good for you. You paid attention. Question 5 is, you know, throughout the pandemic, comfort has come in all sorts of forms for us. What's something you've read or watched that brought you comfort throughout the pandemic?
You know, oddly enough, I find myself, and maybe this is just a little bit of nostalgia on my part, but I find myself watching a lot of older TV programs that I liked. One of the things that kind of drives me crazy about a lot of the current sci-fi and genre television is it's all about the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, and when you feel like you're living it every day in slow motion, all of this, these movies and TV shows about how everything all ends is really not all that entertaining anymore.
Yeah, right.
So I find myself going back to older, more hopeful shows where humanity does have a future and we do make it through all of this. So, you know, obviously for me, it's going to be a lot of the kind of classic Star Trek series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I've been rewatching Babylon 5, which is a terrific series that actually has a lot of interesting Catholic stuff in it, if you know where to look. You know, Babylon 5 about a year and a half ago was released in high definition on streaming services. And so I've been watching some of that. So for me, comfort food when it comes to entertainment is a lot of that kind of nostalgic stuff that doesn't have me constantly thinking about, oh, this is how the world is going to end. I'm not watching The Walking Dead or, the movies where the meteor is going to come destroy the earth, or, I'm not doing that stuff right now because it does not bring me any comfort. It just makes me more anxious. So I want something hopeful and something a little nostalgic.
Well, you are always not only nostalgic, but always hopeful. So, Father Larry, enjoy your new home in New York at the Paulist Mother House for now. And we hope that we will be seeing you again soon. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks so much, Mike. Take care.